Remarkable People in Black History, Part 1, America. This video acknowledges the highlights of 30 Black Americans who made a mark in history through their significant contributions in education, science, literature, freeing enslaved people, civil rights, journalism, law, inventions, aviation, banking, pioneering, and founding a town. On their own, their achievements are exceptional. What makes them extraordinary are the obstacles they faced and the racial barriers they overcame. Number 1, Dr. Carter G. Woodson. In 1926, Dr. Carter G. Woodson established Negro History Week, which later became Black History Month. He chose Negro History Week to be observed in the second week of February to coincide with the birthdays of Frederick Douglass and Abraham Lincoln. Dr. Woodson was devoted to ensuring that Black history was taught in schools and studied by scholars. In 1976, Negro History Week evolved into Black History Month. In addition to founding Negro History Week, he also founded the Association for the Study of Afro-American Life and History in 1915 and the Journal of Negro History in 1916. He also wrote several books, one of which was The Miseducation of the Negro, published in 1933. Number 2, Robert S. Abbott. In 1905, Robert S. Abbott founded the Chicago Defender, one of the most influential Black newspapers in U.S. history. In addition to being a newspaper publisher and editor, he was also an attorney. Number 3, Macon Balling Allen. Macon Balling Allen was the first Black man licensed to practice law in the U.S. He later became the first Black lawyer to argue cases in U.S. courts and the first Black person in the U.S. to hold a judicial position. Number 4, Crispus Attucks. In 1770, British soldiers fired into a crowd of people in this incident known as the Boston Massacre, which happened during the American Revolution. Crispus Attucks was in that crowd, and he is believed to be the first person to lose his life in the American Revolution. He is considered to be a symbol of patriotism and resistance. Number 5, Miriam Benjamin. In 1888, Miriam Benjamin patented the gong and signal chair, an early version of the airplane steward call button. It was designed to help people summon assistance in public places, like hotels and government buildings. Number 6, Nannie Helen Burroughs. Nannie Helen Burroughs was an educator who founded the National Training School for Women and Girls in Washington, D.C. Originally called the National Trade and Professional School for Women and Girls, Incorporated, this was the first school in the U.S. to provide vocational training for Black women and girls. Number 7, Dr. George Washington Carver. Dr. George Washington Carver was an extraordinary distinguished scientist and inventor who contributed valuable scientific discoveries. He developed crop rotation methods and co-created a Jessup wagon, which was like a traveling school used to demonstrate soil chemistry to farmers. He found over 300 uses for the peanut, such as imitation meats like oysters, laundry soap, rubbing oil, which he used to treat polio patients, and of course, peanut butter. He also found over 100 uses for the sweet potato, such as paint and synthetic cotton. In addition, he was an artist whose paintings received honorable mention at the 1893 Chicago World's Fair. Number 8, Bessie Coleman. Bessie Coleman was the first Black woman to earn a pilot's license. She was an extremely skilled and respected aviator who became internationally well known for exhibition stunt flying. She even planned to open a school for Black Americans since they were not allowed to attend aviation schools in the U.S. Number 9, W.E.B. Du Bois. W.E.B. Du Bois was a sociologist, historian, co-founder of the NAACP, and he was the first African American to earn a Ph.D. from Harvard University. In 1903, he wrote The Souls of Black Folk, which was a collection of essays that presents an assessment of the progress of Black Americans. Number 10. T. Thomas Fortune. Born into slavery, T. Thomas Fortune became a leading journalist. In 1887, he founded the New York Age, a major weekly black newspaper advocating civil rights. Number 11. Henry Highland Garnet. Henry Highland Garnet was an abolitionist and minister who became the first black person to speak before the U.S. Congress in 1865 regarding the end of slavery. Number 12. Alice Augusta Ball. Alice Augusta Ball was a brilliant chemist who received 2 bachelor's degrees from the University of Washington, pharmaceutical chemistry and the science of pharmacy. She developed the Ball method, which was an injectable, water-soluble form of shalmugra oil to effectively treat leprosy. Number 13. Charlotte Fortin Grimke. Charlotte Fortin Grimke was an abolitionist, educator, and writer. She was one of the first Black American teachers to instruct formerly enslaved people in the South during the Civil War. Number 14. Frances Ellen Watkins Harper. Frances Ellen Watkins Harper was a poet, abolitionist, and suffragist. In 1854, she wrote Poems on Miscellaneous Subjects, which was a collection of poems and essays on Christianity, slavery, and women. In addition, she helped enslaved people escape through the Underground Railroad. Number 15. James Weldon Johnson. James Weldon Johnson was a poet, diplomat, and civil rights activist. He wrote the lyrics to Lift Every Voice and Sing, which is often referred to as the Black National Anthem. Number 16. John W. Jones. John W. Jones escaped slavery and became a conductor on the Underground Railroad. He helped more than 800 enslaved people escape bondage and find freedom in Canada. Number 17. Isaiah Montgomery. In 1887, Isaiah Montgomery founded Mound Bayou in Mississippi, one of the first all-black towns in the U.S. Mound Bayou still exists today. As of the 2020 census, Mound Bayou has a population of 1,534 residents. Number 18. Garrett Morgan. In 1923, Garrett Morgan invented the 3-light traffic signal. He also invented the gas mask, which saved many lives, including miners and firefighters. Number 19. Alice Dunbar Nelson. Alice Dunbar Nelson was a poet, journalist, and political activist. During World War I, she wrote the poem I Sit and Sew that expresses frustration with the limited roles available to women during times of war and crisis, despite their desire to be able to contribute more directly. Number 20. Asa Philip Randolph. Asa Philip Randolph was a civil rights activist and labor leader who organized the first Black labor union. In 1919, he became president of the National Brotherhood of Workers of America, which was dissolved in 1921 due to pressure from the American Federation of Labor. He also helped to fight for desegregation in the military. Number 21. Benjamin Pap Singleton. Benjamin Pap Singleton was an activist and businessman who bravely escaped slavery. He organized the Exoduster movement, which began in 1879 during the Reconstruction period. This movement encouraged Black Americans in the South to migrate to Kansas for better opportunities. Number 22, William Still. William Still was an abolitionist and conductor in the Underground Railroad, where he helped nearly 800 enslaved people escape. In 1872, he documented their stories in the Underground Railroad Records. He also helped reunite families. Number 23, Mary Church Terrell. Mary Church Terrell was a suffragist, educator, and civil rights leader. She was a co-founder and president of the National Association of Colored Women, which fought for voting and equal rights. In addition, she was the first woman of African descent to be appointed to the District of Columbia Board of Education. Number 24, Sojourner Truth. Sojourner Truth escaped slavery with her infant daughter, and she rescued her enslaved son by winning a court case. In addition, she helped to recruit Black troops for the Union Army, fought for the abolishment of slavery, and campaigned for women's suffrage. Number 25, Harriet Tubman. Harriet Tubman courageously escaped slavery and became a conductor of the Underground Railroad. She was also a women's suffragist, Civil War scout, spy, and nurse. She was the first woman to command an armed military raid, which resulted in the liberation of over 700 enslaved people. Number 26, Madeline M. Turner. Madeline M. Turner is the inventor of Turner's Fruit Press, which was patented in 1916. Thanks to her incredible invention, all modern juicers are based on her original blueprint design. Number 27, Madam C.J. Walker. Madam C.J. Walker was the first self-made Black female millionaire. She built a beauty empire and supported Black entrepreneurship. Also, she was a philanthropist and activist who donated to civil rights causes. She founded scholarships for Black students because Black Americans face racial discrimination and have very limited access to education and economic opportunities. Many universities did not admit Black students, and those that did often lacked funding. In addition, public schools for Black children were severely underfunded due to segregation. Number 28, Maggie L. Walker. Maggie L. Walker was a civil rights activist, educator, businesswoman, and the first woman of African descent to charter and run a U.S. bank, the St. Luke Penny Savings Bank. Her bank helped Black individuals and businesses gain financial independence. Number 29, Booker T. Washington. Booker T. Washington was the founder of Tuskegee Institute, now Tuskegee University, and an advocate for vocational education for Black Americans. He gave speeches on racial progress for Black Americans, which emphasized economic self-reliance, education, and entrepreneurship. And number 30, Ida B. Wells. Ida B. Wells was a journalist, and she co-founded the NAACP, where she was involved in the early civil rights movement, advocating for both Black Americans and women's rights. As an activist and journalist, she used investigative journalism to expose the horrors of lynching, and she led an anti-lynching campaign in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a thumbs up and consider subscribing to this channel. Thank you for watching this video.